Dr. Sarah Chen's hands trembled as she watched the feed from Earth below. The planet that had been her home for 32 years was burning. From her vantage point aboard orbital manufacturing station Prometheus 7, suspended in the darkness for 100 kilometers above the surface, she could see the scars of the invasion spreading like a disease across the continents. 3 days. That's all it had taken for the Krell to shatter humanity's defenses. Their ships had emerged from the dark side of the moon without warning. A fleet of biomechanical horrors that moved through space like predators through water. Earth's combined military forces had launched everything they had. Nuclear missiles, railgun satellites, laser defense networks, all of it had been swatted aside like insects against a windshield. Sarah pressed her forehead against the observation window, her breath fogging the reinforced glass. Behind her, the station's fabrication floor lay silent. The massive 3D printers that normally run 24 hours a day sat idle, their robotic arms frozen mid-motion. The workers had evacuated 12 hours ago, cramming into the last transport shuttles. As the evacuation order blared through every speaker on the station, Dr. Chen, the voice crackled through her headset, making her jump. "This is ground control, Houston. You need to board the final transport now. Launch window closes in 40 minutes. Sarah turned away from the window and looked across the empty factory floor. The cavernous space stretched the length of 3 football fields, filled with industrial equipment that represented humanity's most advanced manufacturing capabilities. Prometheus 7 wasn't just a factory, it was the factory, the crown jewel of Earth's orbital industry. It could produce everything from medical implants to spacecraft components. And it did so with a precision and efficiency that had no equal on the planet below. Negative. "Houston," Sarah said quietly, "I'm staying." There was a long pause. When the voice returned, it belonged to someone different, older, more authoritative. "Dr. Chen, this is General Morrison. I don't have time for heroics. That station is a target. The Krell have been systematically destroying our military infrastructure. An orbital manufacturing facility will be next on their list." Sarah walked slowly between the dormant machines, running her hand along the cool metal surfaces. "With respect, General, I've been watching their attack patterns for 3 days. They're not targeting manufacturing. They're targeting command centers, military bases, government buildings. They hit the Pentagon, not the Ford plant in Detroit. They destroyed the Cheyenne Mountain complex, not the Boeing factories in Seattle. That's because they're going after our ability to coordinate a defense," Morrison snapped. "Exactly," Sarah said, stopping at her workstation. The screen still glowed with data, production schedules that would never be fulfilled, material requisitions that would never be ordered. "They're fighting our military, General. They're fighting our governments. But they're not fighting our economy. They're not fighting our workers. What's your point, Doctor?" Sarah pulled up a global map on her main screen, overlaying it with the Krell strike locations. The pattern was clear. Every red dot marked a center of political or military power. The vast industrial regions, the manufacturing belts, the mining operations. The agricultural zones remained untouched, ignored. "My point is that they think the war is already over," Sarah said. "They've cut off the head, and they're waiting for the body to die. But they don't understand us, General. They don't understand that Earth doesn't run on orders from the top. It runs on the work that happens at the bottom. This is insane, Morrison said. But there was something in his voice now. A hint of curiosity. Even if you're right, what can you possibly accomplish alone on that station? I'm not alone, sir. Sarah switched her display to show the station's internal sensors. I have 12 people who refused to evacuate. Engineers, fabrication specialists, maintenance techs, and more importantly, she pulled up another screen. This one showing a communications network she'd been quietly building over the past 6 hours. I've been in contact with other holdouts. There's a mining crew on Ceres Station who stayed behind. A maintenance team at the O'Neill cylinder. 3 cargo haulers who didn't run. Even some workers at the automated factories on the surface who never got evacuation orders. Because their facilities were considered non-strategic. She could hear Morrison breathing on the other end of the line. The silence stretched. How many? He finally asked. Sarah looked at the growing list of contacts on her screen. The number kept climbing as more people responded to her covert broadcasts. Last count, about 4,000. Scattered across Earth orbit, the moon, the asteroid belt. None of them soldiers, all of them workers. 4,000 civilians can't fight a war against an alien invasion force. No, sir, Sarah agreed. But 4,000 workers can build one hell of a resistance. Another pause. Then, incredibly, she heard what might have been a laugh. You're out of your mind, Dr. Chen. Probably, Sarah admitted. But I'm also right. The Krell made a mistake, General. They thought our strength was in our armies, our governments, our command structures. They have no idea that Earth's real power has always been in our factories, our mines, our construction yards. We're a species that builds, sir. And right now, we need to build weapons. I can't authorize this, Morrison said. But his tone had shifted. He wasn't refusing, he was calculating. If I give you any kind of official support, the Krell might realize what you're doing and wipe you out. Then don't authorize it, Sarah said. As far as official records are concerned, Prometheus 7 was evacuated successfully. Dr. Sarah Chen and 12 crew members tragically died when their transport was destroyed by debris. Very sad. Meanwhile, we get to work. And what exactly will you be working on? Sarah smiled grimly at her reflection in the dark screen. Whatever we can, sir. We have industrial fabricators that can print anything from computer chips to engine blocks. We have material stockpiles that were meant to last 6 months. We have the knowledge base of humanity's most advanced manufacturing processes. And most importantly, we have time. The Krell think they've won. They'll be consolidating their control over Earth, not looking up here at what they think is an abandoned factory. She heard Morrison take a deep breath. How long do you think you can stay hidden? No idea, Sarah said honestly. Maybe a week, maybe a month. But every day we have is a day we can spend building something that might actually hurt them. This is insane, Morrison repeated. But now it sounded like acceptance rather than rejection. I'm going to deny this conversation ever happened. If anyone asks, Prometheus 7 is a dead station. But Dr. Chen, if you somehow manage to pull off a miracle up there, There are some of us down here who will be watching and ready to help when the opportunity comes. Understood, General. Chen out. She cut the connection and stood alone in the silence of the empty factory. Alone, but not for long. She activated the station's internal communications. All personnel, this is Dr. Chen. Report to Fabrication Bay 1 for briefing in 30 minutes. Sarah spent those 30 minutes preparing. She pulled up every schematic she could find, commercial designs, experimental prototypes, classified military hardware that had been produced on the station before the invasion. She studied the Krell ships, analyzing every scrap of video footage from the battles, looking for weaknesses, patterns, anything they could exploit. When her crew assembled, they looked exactly like what they were, frightened people trying to be brave. There was Marcus, the station's chief engineer, a 50-year-old man with graying hair and hands calloused from 3 decades of working with machinery. Eleanor, barely 25, the AI systems programmer who maintained the station's automated fabrication networks. Tom and Jennifer, the materials specialists who understood metal and composites at the molecular level. 8 others, each an expert in their field. Each someone who had chosen to stay when leaving would have been easier. Thank you for staying. Sarah began, looking at each of them in turn. I know you're all scared. I am too. But I asked you here because I believe we have an opportunity that no one else has seen. She brought up the holographic display, showing the Krell attack patterns. They're not targeting us. They're not targeting any industrial infrastructure. To them, we're irrelevant. We're just the workers, the little people who keep the machines running. They have no idea that we're the ones who built everything they just destroyed. And we can build it again. Marcus stepped forward, studying the display. You want to retool the station for weapons production? More than that, Sarah said. I want to turn this entire station into a weapon. We have fabricators that can print drones. We have material stockpiles and raw ore from the asteroid belt. We have the knowledge to build anything humanity has ever designed. And we have something the Krell don't expect. We have the skills to improvise, to adapt, to build solutions from whatever we have on hand. Eleanor spoke up, her voice quiet but steady. The station's AI can coordinate multiple fabrication lines simultaneously. If we program it correctly, we could have autonomous production running around the clock. The solar panels provide enough power for full-capacity manufacturing, Tom added, warming to the idea. And the material recyclers can break down non-essential equipment to provide raw feedstock. Sarah felt a surge of hope. They understood. We're not going to win this war, she said bluntly. 13 people on one space station can't defeat an alien invasion. But we can hurt them. We can build weapons, drones, anything that might give Earth a fighting chance. And more importantly, we can prove something to the Krell that they don't yet understand. What's that? Marcus asked. Sarah looked around at her crew, at these ordinary people who had made an extraordinary choice. That when you kill our leaders, when you destroy our armies, when you think you've won, the workers are still here, and we're going to keep working. She activated the fabrication systems. Throughout the station, machines hummed to life. Robotic arms began their precise choreographed movements. 3D printers warmed up, ready to create. The assembly lines, silent for 12 hours, resumed their industrial symphony. "So what do we build first?" Jennifer asked. Sarah pulled up a schematic. She'd been working on a modification of a standard cargo drone, retrofitted with improvised explosive charges and a simple AI guidance system. It wasn't elegant, it wasn't sophisticated, but it could be built with what they had, and it could hurt. "We start simple," she said. "Kamikaze drones disguised as debris. Then we move to more complex systems. We have people at other facilities starting their own operations. The mining crew on Ceres can redirect ore shipments to us. The cargo haulers can become our distribution network. The automated factories on Earth can run without human oversight if Eleanor can hack their systems." She looked at her team, at the awakening factory around them. "The Krill think they're occupying a conquered planet. They have no idea they're standing in the middle of the largest weapons factory in human history. And we're about to go into overtime." Marcus grinned, the first smile she'd seen in days. "Then we better get to work," as her crew scattered to their stations. As the fabricators began printing the first components of their improvised arsenal, Sarah stood at her window one last time. Earth still burned below, but somewhere in that chaos, other workers were making the same choice they had: to stay, to fight, not with guns or missiles, but with the tools they knew best. The Krell had defeated Earth's armies. Now they were about to meet Earth's labor force, and humanity's workers had never missed a deadline yet. 3 months into the occupation, and the Krell had settled into their victory like conquerors throughout history, with confidence bordering on complacency. Sarah watched their patrol patterns from Prometheus 7's observation deck, noting how they'd become routine, predictable. The alien ships moved through Earth's orbital space on fixed schedules, scanning for military threats that no longer existed. They'd established garrison posts in major cities, deployed their biomechanical ground forces to suppress any resistance, and begun the slow process of cataloging their new acquisition. They'd stopped looking up at the abandoned industrial stations. They'd stopped worrying about the cargo haulers that drifted through the asteroid belt. They'd stopped paying attention to the thousands of automated factories that dotted Earth's surface, still running on pre-invasion programming because no one had bothered to shut them down. It was exactly the mistake Sarah had been counting on. "Morning production report," Eleanor announced, not looking up from her workstation. The young programmer had adapted to their new reality with remarkable efficiency, her fingers dancing across holographic keyboards as she coordinated an increasingly complex network. Fabrication Bay 1 completed another 200 kinetic drones overnight. Beta finished the stealth coating application on the last batch. Bay 3 is having some issues with the guidance systems, but Tom thinks he can fix it by this afternoon. Sarah nodded, marking the numbers in her log. In 3 months, their crew of 13 had produced over 15,000 combat drones, each one disguised as space debris or derelict satellites. They floated in a slowly expanding cloud round Prometheus 7, waiting for activation codes. Invisible among the thousands of actual debris pieces that cluttered Earth's orbital space. After the invasion, but the drones were just the beginning. "What's the status of the Ceres shipment?" Sarah asked, Marcus is coordinating with their crew now, Eleanor replied. They've redirected 3 ore haulers to us. Platinum group metals, rare earth elements, and a full load of refined titanium. ETA 48 hours. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. The mining crew on Ceres Station had proven to be invaluable allies. What had started as 7 workers refusing to abandon their post had grown into a coordinated mining operation specifically designed to support the resistance. They extracted materials, refined them in secret, and shipped them in cargo containers marked with false manifests. To any Krell scanner, they were just standard commercial shipments. The normal background noise of a functioning industrial economy. The Krell never questioned it. Why would they? The humans were defeated. Their military was broken. The survivors were simply trying to keep their economy running under new management. Dr. Chen, you need to see this. Marcus's voice crackled over the intercom. Conference room. Now, Sarah found Marcus hunched over a holographic display, his face illuminated by the blue glow of a star chart. Next to him stood a man Sarah had never seen before, tall, weathered, with the kind of lean build that came from living in low gravity for extended periods. He wore a cargo hauler's jumpsuit, stained with decades of wear. Sarah Chen. Meet Captain Marcus Webb, Marcus said. He just docked with an emergency request. Webb extended a calloused hand. Dr. Chen, I've been hearing about your operation through the network. Impressive work. Captain Webb runs one of the largest independent cargo operations in the system. Marcus explained. 3 ships to dozen crew members. They've been operating under Krell occupation, playing the part of cooperative civilians. While gathering intelligence, Webb added with a grim smile, the Krell talk freely around people they consider defeated. We've been listening. Sarah shook his hand, feeling the strength in his grip. What do you have for us, Captain? Webb manipulated the holographic display, bringing up a detailed scan of a Krell command ship. This is the Subjugator-class vessel currently in geosynchronous orbit over what used to be Beijing. It's their primary coordination hub for the Asian continent. 4,000 Krell crew, advanced weaponry, shields that can shrug off anything we threw at them during the war. So why are you showing it to me? Sarah asked, though she suspected she already knew. Because I can get inside it, Webb said simply. The Krell have been using civilian cargo ships for resupply. They scan us for weapons, but their scanners are calibrated for military hardware. They're not looking for industrial explosives, mining charges, or fuel oxidizer that could be repurposed. They're not looking for threats that look like cargo. Sarah felt her pulse quicken. You want to turn your ship into a bomb. Not just my ship, Webb said, pulling up schematics of his vessel. The Stella Maris is a heavy cargo hauler. She's got a payload capacity of 50,000 tons. I can fill her holds with every volatile substance we can manufacture. Disguise it as legitimate cargo. Request a docking permit. And once I'm inside their shields, he made an explosive gesture with his hands. Marcus leaned forward. It would work. The blast would be contained by their own shield envelope, amplifying the destruction. We could take out their command ship, at the cost of your ship and crew, Sarah said quietly. Looking at Webb, the captain met her gaze steadily. My crew volunteered. We've been running cargo for 30 years, Dr. Chen. Hauling ore, manufactured goods, supplies to stations just like this one. We're not soldiers. We're not heroes. We're just workers who are tired of watching our world burn while we pretend everything is normal. Sarah turned to the display, studying the Krell command ship. Taking it out would be a significant blow, but it would also reveal their hand. The Krell would realize that the resistance wasn't coming from military remnants. It was coming from the industrial sector they'd ignored. If we do this, everything changes. She said, they'll start hunting us. All of us. They're going to find us eventually, Marcus said. Our drone production has increased by 400%. The network is growing every day. Last count, we have contact with over 12,000 workers across the system who are actively supporting the resistance. Sooner or later, the Krell are going to notice, Webb nodded. Better to strike first, while we still have the element of surprise. And if we coordinate this right, it won't just be my ship. He pulled up a larger map, showing multiple cargo vessels throughout the system. I've been talking to other hauler captains, independent operators who've been playing the same game we have. 6 of them are willing to make the same run against different targets. We could hit 6 Krell command ships simultaneously. Sarah stared at the map, her mind racing through the implications. 6 command ships, 6 civilian cargo vessels loaded with improvised explosives, 6 crews willing to sacrifice everything. We'd need perfect timing, she said. If even one ship tips them off before the others are in position, that's where I come in, Eleanor said from the doorway. Sarah turned to see the young programmer leaning against the frame, her portable workstation under her arm. I've been working on something. A coordination protocol that can sync all the ships to a single detonation signal. It'll use the civilian communication network, hidden in standard shipping traffic data. The Krell won't even know it's there. Can you guarantee synchronization? When asked, within a 2-second window, Eleanor confirmed. I'll need to install the protocol on each ship personally, but yes, I can make it work. Sarah looked at each of them. Marcus, who had been with her from the beginning. Webb, who represented the growing resistance among the civilian population. Eleanor, who had transformed from a frightened young programmer into one of their most valuable assets. How long do we have before the Krell's routine cargo inspection cycle resets? She asked. 72 hours, Webb said. After that, they'll update their scanning protocols. This window won't come again. 3 days. 3 days to coordinate the most ambitious strike of the resistance. 3 days to weaponize 6 cargo ships and position them without arousing suspicion. 3 days to prove that Earth's workers were still in the fight. Then we have 72 hours to get to work, Sarah said. Marcus, start fabricating the explosive compounds. I want them disguised as legitimate industrial materials. Eleanor, get that synchronization protocol installed on every ship. Captain Webb, coordinate with your fellow haulers. I want backup plans for the backup plans. As the group dispersed to their tasks, Sarah returned to her observation window. Below, Earth continued its slow rotation, continents dark where cities once blazed with light. The Krell had dimmed humanity's lights. Believing they'd extinguished the fire entirely, they were about to learn the difference. The next 72 hours became a masterclass in coordinated industrial action. The mining crews on Ceres worked triple shifts, producing and refining materials that could be weaponized. The automated factories on Earth, reprogrammed by Eleanor's distributed AI network, began churning out components disguised as civilian goods. Cargo haulers crisscrossed the system, their holds filled with death packaged to look like commerce. Sarah barely slept, coordinating the efforts from Prometheus 7's command center. She watched as the pieces came together with the precision of a well-designed assembly line. Each worker knew their role. Each facility contributed what they could produce best. Each ship followed its route without deviation. On the third day, Captain Webb stood on the bridge of the Stella Maris, now loaded, with 50,000 tons of carefully arranged volatile compounds. His crew of 8 worked around him, making final preparations. Through the view screen, he could see the massive bulk of the Krell command ship, its biomechanical hull pulsing with an eerie bioluminescence. Civilian cargo vessel Stella Maris requesting docking permission, he broadcast, keeping his voice steady, carrying manufactured goods and industrial materials for planetary distribution. The response came in the clicking, chittering language of the Krell. Translated by computer, permission granted. Proceed to docking bay 7. Any deviation from assigned approach vector will result in immediate destruction. Acknowledged. Webb said, then switched to a private channel. Eleanor, are we synced? Back on Prometheus 7, Eleanor watched 6 separate data streams, each representing one of the cargo bombs. All ships reporting green status. Synchronization protocol active. Waiting for your signal. Captain, Webb guided the Stella Maris through the docking approach, his hands steady on the controls despite the sweat on his forehead. Around the system, 5 other cargo ships were making identical approaches to their targets. 12,000 workers held their breath, washing through jury-rigged networks and civilian communication channels. The Stella Maris passed through the Krell shield envelope. Webb felt the familiar tingle of the energy barrier, the point of no return. He looked at his crewmen and women he'd worked with for decades, people who had become family. It's been an honor, he said quietly. They nodded, understanding in their eyes. They'd made their choice, Eleanor. Webb said into the comm. Activate Protocol Lazarus. Authorization Webb Alpha 7. On Prometheus 7. Eleanor's fingers hesitated for just a moment over the final command. Then she thought of Earth below, of the billions suffering under occupation, of the Krell's arrogant certainty that they'd conquered humanity by defeating its armies. She pressed the button. 6 cargo ships, scattered across Earth's orbital space, detonated simultaneously. The explosions were contained by the Krell's own shields, magnifying the destruction as Webb had predicted. The command ships, magnificent and terrible, tore themselves apart from within. Secondary explosions rippled through their hulls as their own weapon systems cooked off. From Prometheus 7, Sarah watched as 6 new stars briefly blazed in the darkness. 6 command ships, 6 cargo ships, 48 crew members who had chosen to become weapons themselves. The comm channels erupted with chatter Krell forces scrambling, trying to understand what had happened. In the confusion, Sarah heard the question they were asking each other in a dozen languages, translated by their own systems. Where did this attack come from? Sarah activated the station's communication ray, broadcasting on all civilian frequencies the channels the Krell monitored, but considered harmless background noise. This is Dr. Sarah Chen, Orbital Manufacturing Station Prometheus 7. To all industrial facilities, all cargo operations, all workers across the system. You've just witnessed the first coordinated strike of Earth's real army. Not our soldiers, our workers. The Krell thought they defeated us when they destroyed our military. They forgot that we built that military in the first place. And we're still building. She paused, looking at the growing network of contacts on her screen. 12,000 becoming 13,000. Becoming 15,000 as more workers found the courage to join. We are the miners who extract the ore, the fabricators who shape the metal, the haulers who move the goods, the programmers who run the systems, the engineers who maintain the machines. We are the people the Krell ignored because they thought we were irrelevant. They thought wrong. This war isn't over. It's just entering its second shift. And we've never missed a deadline yet. She cut the transmission and turned to her crew. Marcus was grinning fiercely. Eleanor had tears streaming down her face, but her hands were already moving across her keyboards, coordinating the next phase. The others stood tall. No longer frightened workers, but soldiers in an army the enemy had never seen coming. What's next? Marcus asked. Sarah pulled up a new schematic, a weapon system more ambitious than anything they'd attempted. Now we stop playing small. We've proven we can hurt them. It's time to show them we can win. But first, she looked at the growing casualty list on her screen. 48 names that would never be forgotten. First, we make sure Captain Webb and his crews didn't sacrifice themselves for nothing. We make sure every Krell in this system knows that Earth's workers are coming for them. She activated the fabrication systems, and throughout Prometheus 7, the machines began their work anew. But this time, they weren't alone. Across the system, in hidden facilities and automated factories, in mining stations and cargo holds, 15,000 workers began the same shift. The Krell had conquered Earth's governments. Now they would face its economy. And humanity's economy had never lost a production war yet.